Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. Here we are again in the middle of the week on a Wednesday. Beautiful day, right smack in the dab of what has happened at this point and what's yet to happen in this week. And I don't know the future. I wish I did. That would make life somewhat easier, maybe. But in any case, I'm here talking about Proverbs this week. I'll talk about it again next week. But I want to look at this verse, or two verses, in chapter 10. First, the third verse. The Lord will not let the godly go hungry, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. And then verse 11. The words of the godly are life-giving fountain. The words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. Well, let's think about this for a minute. The passage here contrasts the godly versus what it calls the wicked. Now, basically, it's talking about the godly and the non-godly. Now, I'm not going to go so far as to suggest that all people who aren't godly are wicked. The word wicked implies evil. It implies trying to get ahead and on the shoulders or by stomping down others. It talks about being deceiving, and the word wicked conveys all these kinds of images. And frankly, I know a lot of people who are not godly in their hearts, but they're not that kind of wicked either. But what the passage does point to is the difference between those who really love the Lord and those who don't. Now, I'm not talking here about people who go to church versus those who don't. If you've gone to church any length of time in your life, you'll know that church is full of people who aren't very godly. In fact, one of the hardest lessons I had to learn as a new pastor was not to assume that just because people came to church, they were more Christian. Now, I think they should be, and many of them were, but not all. The church is a place for people who are seeking God, and it doesn't matter whether you've done it for a little time or a lot. It's full of all kinds of people who bring all kinds of problems and all kinds of behavior. And let's just don't mince words. It's not a perfect place. And if you ever find a perfect church, as a friend of mine once said, please don't go there, because if you do, you'll ruin it. But these two verses are talking about a difference for those who love the Lord and for those who don't. Now, verse 3 gives us a promise about those who love the Lord. It says, the Lord will not let the godly go hungry. Now, hungry here is used in a big way, not just eating hungry. It means spiritually hungry. It means fulfillment of life hungry. It means relationship hungry. What he's saying here is that God will not allow those who love him to go empty. Now, he's not saying they won't have any problems. He's not saying that nothing bad will ever happen to them. But he is saying that in all things, for all times, God will not allow you, what's the best way to phrase this? He's not going to allow you to perish. You may struggle a lot, but you will succeed. You will survive when you depend on him in everything that happens. Now, in contrast to that, it says in verse 3, but he refuses to satisfy the craving of the wicked. God makes no promises to those who don't follow him other than he loves them. All of the good things that the Bible says for people who love God just aren't necessarily available to those who choose to walk their own way. Maybe some of those folks will live a good life with very little bad happening and make a productive career out of something. Maybe they won't. They're on their own, in essence. But the godly are not on their own. There's something about the relationship between God and those who love him that changes everything. Now we get on down to verse 11, and it says here, the words of the godly are a life-giving fountain. And it says, the words of the wicked conceal violent intentions. If you're struggling with something and you need advice, be sure you find someone who loves the Lord for the advice. Now, don't misunderstand. If I need surgery, I'm going to a surgeon. I'm not going to my next door neighbor who happens to be a strong Christian. There's a tension here between skill, experience, and their attitude towards God. I'm not talking about, and neither is the scripture talking about, eliminating skill and experience. But it does say that if you have a choice, be sure you take the godly one. Now, I suppose if the Lord isn't important to you, you're not going to care. But you can tell in dealing with people to a large degree where their heart is. And when we go to those whose hearts are different than ours and ask for advice, well, we might not get the best. Same is true of counseling. If you and someone in your family or you know someone who's struggling in relationships, find a good, skilled, experienced, godly counselor. Don't just pick one out of the phone book. There are a lot of people that have advice. Doesn't mean it's the right kind. And so these two passages are trying to tell us, for those who love the Lord, God's going to take care of them. And they, in turn, will help take care of others. That's how it's supposed to be. That was the intention from the beginning. And it still can be that way for those who seek God's life and God's purpose in theirs. Will you think about your own lives? How do you stand up? How are you doing? If life isn't good and fresh and wonderful, then maybe it's time to get close to God and see what happens. No promises here. I can't make anything happen. I can only tell you there's a God who can. Well, thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. I hope that you're ready for the end of the week. If you have a concern or a prayer need, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. Well, thanks for listening. I wish you the very, very best. Talk to you again.